Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing the originals, Season 1, Episode 10, The Casket Girls. This was another great episode in my opinion, and you know what I really loved about this episode was, again, the shift in power. We had a really big shift in power in this episode. Not as much as the River in Reverse, episode 8, The River in Reverse. This one, we still did get a pretty big shift in power, and I really do enjoy that a lot. I really do enjoy where the show is going, and, they're building up a lot of things that I'm definitely very interested in, especially the ending. I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen with the end, and I'll get to that in a second, but, let's get to the main plot. So the main plot, of course, you have Davina and, Cammy, and we'll get to that in a second. First, we had a flashback. We actually did a flashback in the show. We go to Louisiana, 1751. Rebecca is talking about society, women flooding to Louisiana to look for a proper husband. She says that many of the men, they were not proper or, gentle. And the carriage of three girls headed for the governor's mansion is waylaid by rough ones. But then there are screams and silence. The girls cover in the carriage until the footman looks out and sees them all lying dead and bleeding. And he is told to then he too is grabbed and killed. Rebecca wakes up with her bloody mouth and tells him that the bad men have all gone away. And she says that the girls have to stick together and escort them to safety. And the Casket Girls, a legend that stories celebrate every year. So now we go to the present, where we see Cammy is still screaming in pain as Klaus's compulsion is basically stripped away. And if you remember, Davina wanted to, bring back those memories, or I thought it was her getting back the memories, but really it was Klaus's compulsion being stripped away from her. So Josh tells her he's been through it all herself, and Davina asks if she wants her to stop, but Cammy tells her to carry on. So Rebecca is shopping and complains and tells Marcel to booger off, and she says he made the choice of Klaus over her, and so he has the right to touch her, and his phone rings and she asks who it could be, and it's Klaus calling to tell him Davina is gone. Cammy is yelling in pain. Davina says it should be getting better. Josh hands her the notes she made and says they should make more sense now. He's burned in the light. Davina promises daylight rings soon. And she tells Klaus, she says Klaus compelled her to go out with Marcel. And Davina tells him to think back further and touches her, and Cammy starts to cry. She recalls Klaus telling her to leave and forget him. So Klaus tells Marcel, because Cammy's now getting back all of these bad memories, and I really do enjoy that Cammy kind of got back all her bad memories from Klaus, and it was definitely cool to see her go through that pain. So Klaus is telling Marcel that their secret weapon is escaped, and Elijah tells him her violin is gone. So he thinks that she went on her own volition, and Marcel demands to know what Elijah sent to her, and he tells Marcel to back off and that he wouldn't want to see Davina harmed, and Klaus reminds him that she's the most powerful witch in New Orleans, and if she isn't a friend, she's an enemy. By the way, most powerful witch in New Orleans, we will get to that in a second, because it really, there is something big that happens. So, Rebecca asks Haley if she knows where Davina is. Haley says he told her, and that he told her the witch elders were dead. And Rebecca says it's her fault, but then she relents and says she doesn't like the boys' club. And Rebecca says Davina is like a modern day casket girl lied to and manipulated by men. So she tells Haley that the girls have to stick together, and I really like this now. Kind of, you got this alliance going on between Rebecca, Haley, Davina, and Cammy, and I really enjoy this alliance now that we have. Rebecca's kind of going against Marcel and Klaus, even though it looked like she was going to work with them. Now she's going against them. Haley's, Elijah, though, I don't really know where Elijah stands in this. We'll get to that in a second. But Davina gives Cammy vervain so she can't be compelled again, and Josh is thirsty, and Davina offers him her arm, but then since the locator spell, she says they're trying to find her, and Cammy says they need to run. Davina says there's no way for her to sneak out of the quarter, and Cammy says her Uncle Keiren can help. She's shocked when Davina tells her that Keiren knows everything and is actually a pal of Marcel's. Cammy is floored when Josh confirms this to her, and Josh tells them they need to go now and offers them his car, and He says it's at the docks and gives his keys. He can't go because the sun is still up, but tells Davina no tears. She hugs him and asks him to meet them once the sun is done. So Klaus's goons follow Haley to the bathroom, and she tells them to leave her. Her phone rings, and it's Sophie calling to tell her Davina's on the loose. And she asks why she should care, why she should help them, and I'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. But the Casket girls' party is at full force as they walk down the street. Davina has a mask on, but they see Klaus out looking for them. They decide to get off the street. And Elijah and Marcel are looking around too. Rebecca joins them, and Klaus asks if she's come to help round up the stray. And Klaus says they are moments away from reeling her in, and he spots Tim, who was Davina's best friend, if you remember. Not just her best friend, her boyfriend, and he compels her. If you remember, Tim was the person who she left. And she had to, she was really upset because of the pain she had, and she really had a lot of pain over leaving him. He's back now, because now they're letting her, she's not really working for Marcel anymore, so she can have him back and everything. I don't know if Tim knows she's a witch. I'm assuming she does, because, well, you guys will see in a second when I say it. Josh calls Cammy. He asks where they are so he can meet them before the sun comes up. He gets a call from Timothy, but it's Klaus. And he tells him he just moved to Turkey, and Klaus says he's lying and likely still in town. And in the company of Davina, he says she isn't there, and Klaus says if Davina doesn't show up to the compound soon, he's going to hurt Timothy. So Cammy and Davina are hiding out in a church for a few minutes. Josh calls Cammy, gives her the 411 on Tim's situation. She tells him to head to the quarter and wait for them, but then she senses magic, and the witches are there. They knock Cammy out, They knock Cammy out with magic, and then Sophie goes postal and lifts up all the witches and knocks them out, and she storms out of the church, terrified, basically. Not terrified, but pissed off. That's where she storms out of the church pissed off. So Davina stomps down the street when Josh stops her. She says she'll kill all of them, and he tells her that the originals can't be killed. She says that she is strong enough, but she has so much power that's growing. And he starts to tell her that if she kills him, then he'll die. But then she stops herself and tells her if she's going to do it, to go all in and give them all she's got. So Rebecca steps out, tells him he was noble, but that Klaus will kill her, and that's unnecessary. And she tells Josh to help her help Davina, basically. So Elijah asks Klaus how he can be sure Davina will come. He shows how Timothy, who's also stirring up and fiddling, Marcel comes in and tells him he's spread the word. He also tells Klaus that he should let him talk to Davina, and Klaus cuts Tim's playing off, and she demands he let him down. Marcel asks why she ran and tells her he can make it right. So Klaus apologizes for stringing up Tim, but tells her his ways get results. She tells Klaus everyone is afraid. They can all see what he is. And this was an amazing scene right here. This is by far one of my favorite scenes of the entire episode. Davina went, when I say she had so much power, we see all the power that Davina had in this episode. Like, they've always talked about how Davina is this powerful, powerful being. We really didn't get to see it. Here, we get to see it. Because Klaus, she knocks Klaus down with a spell. She tells him to show his real face. He contorts into a partial werewolf, and she knocks him aside. Then she goes for Elijah and tells him he's a killer just like Klaus, and tells him to choke on blood, and he starts to, and then kneels over. And then finally Marcel, and I love this next scene, because, Marcel's the person that she thought, she trusted, and she loved him, but he was just using her and handed her over to Klaus like a trophy. And he says that he did love her, and then she gets staked, but then he gets staked from behind, and it's Rebecca, and Davina, and she tells Davina she couldn't have been buying in his lies, and says the girls need to have a talk. So Rebecca tells Davina that her magic is impressive and the punishments were well deserved. She tells her she has a surprise for her, and Josh comes in. Rebecca grabs him by the neck and says if she were Klaus, she would rip his head off, but it's such a boy thing to do. Rebecca tells Tim he can come down, and says he says he's scared. She tells him to jump, and she catches him. He cries and then hugs Davina, and he asks how she did all that. They hold each other. Josh watches with quite a bit of jealousy. So that was definitely interesting to see. Davina asks Rebecca why she's doing it, and she said Davina has all the cards, but she needs to know who to trust. And And then we see Rebecca. She brings Davina down to the catacombs below the house. Josh tells them the vampires bricked in are just hungry. And we see that Tim is choking and tells Davina he's sorry and that Klaus gave her the poison water. Made him give her the poison water, and Tim collapses. Then Davina starts to turn a bad shade, and we know this is not good. She's starting to turn a bad shade, and then we get Keiren confronting Cammy, who has finally come to. She tells him that the witches had knocked her out. She asks where Davina is and confronts him with all the truth she now knows. He says it's complicated. She's angry they let her think her brothers were crazy. He says he was protecting her. He says he is as bad as the rest of the monsters in the city and storms out. As I told you guys, I still think Keiren is going to be the big villain here, especially in that scene where he just told her he's as bad as all the monsters, and she should be afraid of him. So I definitely think that Keiren is going to end up being the villain of the season. So Marcel comes to, and Elijah helps him out. Rebecca calls Klaus and demands how to cure Davina, and he's not really telling her. But Klaus glares at Marcel, and he says that Marcel was colluding a witch and calls him clever. Marcel said he needed a fail-safe in case Klaus went off the rails, and Klaus said he had to protect his family, and Elijah says that she is Marcel's family. And Rebecca carries Davina upstairs, and we get this really nice voiceover from Rebecca. Marcel takes her gently, says he'll put her in her room. She reluctantly hands her over as Klaus glares at her. Rebecca looks at him with scorn and then turns away. Marcel watches Davina sleep. Elijah comes in too. He tells Elijah she'll never trust him again. And he tells Marcel not to try giving it up, turn it back. And as soon as Marcel leaves, Davina opens her eyes. And that's basically the story of that. I definitely enjoyed the main plot. I really like where it's going. And I think definitely Davina's getting much more powerful. And we're really starting to see how powerful Davina really is, which I really love seeing in this episode. I thought that was great. So in the meantime, Haley is trying to struggle into a gown for celebration. Her pregnancy is getting even worse at this point. And Sophie is making out with this hot guy when Sabine interrupts to tell her she thinks Davina is on the loose. And Sophie says if they can get her back, they can fix things, but they only have until sundown when the vamps come out in force. And Sabine is ready to work a locator spell to find her. And she says Haley needs to get her the remains of Celeste that he buried in a secret spot, and Sophie tells Haley to find out where. So Haley's called back to the plantation by her escorts and tells them she just needs to grab clothes, heads upstairs, and she calls Sophie. So she calls Sophie and tells her that Celeste is buried between two oaks. Sophie says it's not enough info, and Haley tells her to use her witch mojo to figure it out. She begins to cast a spell and asks for help from the spirits. The wind whirls up, and she's led to two giant trees. And then the very last scene of the episode, which I really love this last scene, Haley finds Elijah. He asks her about her day, and she says it was killer. She asks about the artwork, and he says it was a premonition that something is coming. Sophie is out digging in the woods, finding this casket with Celeste's photo on it, and Elijah arranges the sketches, and it's Celeste's face. So Celeste, they're going to bring Celeste back to life, it looks like, and I'm definitely interested in seeing where this is going to go. So yeah, this was a fantastic episode, in my opinion. I mean, these episodes, in my opinion, are just... they're getting better and better. Like, ever since episode 8, they've just gotten better and better. And I think this one really was great because one of the things I love, we really got to see how powerful Davina really is. That everyone should really be afraid of her and that she's not just some little witch. She actually is very, very powerful. So I really enjoyed seeing that. Did you kind of like the new switched in power that Rebecca took with this female alliance? And Josh, too. Josh is in this. And I think Elijah's not included in this, though. Do you like how it's kind of girls versus boys now? I actually really like that. I think that's really cool because it's kind of shifted away from the whole romance thing. I really do enjoy that. How powerful is Davina? It looks like next week she's not going to be able to control her powers. We'll have to see what happens there. But, what's going to happen with this girl power alliance? What do you think is going to happen there? Not a girl power alliance. Yeah, it pretty much is. It pretty much is that. It's just 3 witches, and they're awesome. They're all badasses, in my opinion. Davina was a real badass this episode. Also, are they going to bring Celeste back to life? I think that's probably what's going to happen, is that they're going to bring Celeste back to life. And also, do you think Klaus and Elijah and Marcel are kind of not going to succeed in this? It seems like Marcel wants to win Davina's trust back. Do you think he'll succeed in that? That's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys for my next video, which will be my review for Ravenswood. So see you then. Bye.